Hey, everybody. Welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am so blessed and honored to be here with Cathy Heyne, president of Living Abroad. Cathy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ben. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you. And you're always such a great audience member and fan of the show. You're always checking in, and I love seeing your comments and everything down there. And to everybody out there who's watching right now, go ahead and get active in the comments. Let us know who you are, where you are, what you're up to right now. This is cool. Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of people coming in on LinkedIn. This is awesome. Hit that like button. Let everybody know you're watching right now. Also, I want to quickly plug, Stace, we got the link there real quick, Cathy. Before we get started, I want to plug this promotion we're doing right here in conjunction with Move for Hunger. It's a fundraiser, okay? I'm not just out here selling cups, people, I promise you. moveforhunger.org/Tumblr. Get your Move for Hunger. It's got a little Love and Reload brand there. I think we still got a few of them left there, so get them while they last. Summer's here. It's a nice insulated tumbler. It's awesome. So check those out. Cathy, thank you for letting me plug the mugs.
No problem. I love Move for Hunger. We donated to it when you did your event with John Hidehouse. So really good cause.
You.
Really good cause.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's awesome. Yeah, charity stuff is so important. I think sometimes we forget how much power we have, how much influence we have, and what we can do in the world, if we just encourage others just a little bit and give them an opportunity. You know what I mean, Cathy?
Absolutely. And sometimes it's not even about giving money. Maybe it's donating your time, spending time helping out organizations or teaching or whatever it may be. It is important to give back. I agree.
Yeah, I do too. Hey, if you're watching right now, I want to know real quick, throw it in the comments. What's your favorite charity? What do you like to support? Let us know. If there's something maybe you like Move for Hunger, or maybe there's something we haven't even heard about. Throw it in the comments. Let us know. We've got people checking in right here real quick. Let's say what's up. We got Farrell Elliott. Hi, Cathy. Great to see you again.
Hi, Farrell.
Isn't that awesome? Alan King. Hi, checking Alan. In from Germany.
Hi to Jennifer and baby.
Awesome. We got Michael here on the YouTube.
Michael.
You know this guy, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Michael real quick. Let's talk about Michael.
Yeah, so Michael is my business partner, and he has, we met in early days at Craighead. Craighead was our employer, and eventually we ended up going different directions and then coming together again as partners in Living Abroad. So, go ahead.
Michael's also the illustrator behind Expat Moose, right?
Yep, I was just going to mention that. Yes, he's been honing his creative skills ever since lockdown, and graces the LinkedIn and Facebook pages with his art every week.
Expat Moose is like the Dilbert of relocation. We got to keep that going, Michael. That's great.
He loves it. I don't think he's going to stop anytime soon.
That's awesome. Very cool. Stacy Huff checking in, our producer. What's up, Stacy? Thank you for everything you do. Stacy's amazing. She's the glue here. I don't say thank you enough, Stacy, so thank you very much. Tandra checking in from Premier Luxury in Chicago. Ray Abbott, good afternoon. Paula checking in. Mary Lee. Farrell says, I'm a Susan Komen girl. All right.
Okay. Good cause.
Yeah, Michael Cat. Covenant House, homeless children. Oh, gee whiz. Okay. Cool. Elizabeth Martin checking in. What's up? DJ Lizzie Beats. Emily. Sharon checking in from Express Corporate Housing. This is great. Michael's going to keep drawing for us. I love it. Kelly Hartquist here in Dallas at Pivot. What's up, Kelly? Well, congrats on the new role. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nicola checking in. Stephen Hoffman. Steve Hoffman's got a new gig too. Steve, can't wait to hear about that. Oh. So, Cathy, yeah, see? Breaking news here, people.
I didn't know that.
This is awesome. Steve, throw a link in there. Give yourself a shout out. But Cathy, tell us a little bit about your mobility journey for people that don't know you. How'd you get in the biz?
Yeah, so it obviously, like most people in this business, I didn't start out that with, going right into global mobility. I did always have an interest in different cultures. And I think, just growing up with immigrant grandparents, that's probably the reason. I didn't know it at the time, but that was probably the reason. But I did, I went to college, I wanted to be a geologist. And my dad said, well, why don't you be a geological engineer? And I'm like, okay, I don't know the difference, but I like geology. So I did that. And I took a couple classes in the petroleum industry, like fluid mechanics and things like that. And so I got a job right out of college working for an oil well service company called Dresser, which is now part of Halliburton. And I think I started there because the salaries were amazing, as the oil field salaries always are, right? So I'm like, wow, right out of college, this is great. So I worked a year in the oil fields as a well logger engineer in
what is a well logger? I'm so curious. So by the way, this is so funny because my sister was a chemical engineer, and she went to work for Schlumberger out of college. So I'm fascinated by your career here because it might help me give you some advice here. So what's a well logger, and then what happens?
So a well logger is, once they get to the desired level, so they call it the rock formation, that they think there's trapped oil in, they want to make sure that there really is oil there. So they send down this tool. They have to pull out the drilling bit, and then they send down this tool, and it measures the resistivity in the formation, so they can know where I know it's very complicated, but anyway.
It's great. I'm loving it. I love learning new stuff. This is fantastic. In case this whole podcast thing doesn't work out, I can go dig a hole somewhere and see what resistivity is.
So I was the engineer in charge there, and a couple of times in Ventura, California, they actually have offshore platforms. So I remember one time going offshore, and the thing about being a well logger in the field is you have to wait until they're ready for you. So they could call you out at 11 at night, and they might not need you till 5 in the morning. So you're just sitting there waiting and all that. So after a year of doing that and kind of having these, what I call doctor's hours, I transferred to the corporate office in Texas, and I did the in-house kind of analyzing the well logs that came from these trucks. So I did that for a year. And then I decided that wasn't my thing. I didn't realize that I liked people so much. I could have done engineering sales, but I moved to New York City to study design. And at the time from that point, I went into real estate. I decided that, I'm not going to work for anybody. I'm going to buy my own building, and I'm going to do my own designs. And so I went on to get my broker's license there. And then I took a few years off, and I was looking for something part-time, and I saw this ad from Craighead right in my town, part-time, perfect. So I started working, and I started really liking it. We had this body of information on destinations, and we were selling directly to corporations. So I loved talking to the corporations. I loved the people that I was meeting. And as time went on, the company was sold after we built it up. So it started growing. We started growing it in 1998.
So right, I want to understand. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to stop you because I want to understand this just for a moment. Okay. So Craighead sold information about destinations, like brochures almost, kind of. Is that what we're talking about?
A profile. So when a mover, they would sell it to the moving companies. So the moving company will put together this little folder, 20 pages. Okay, you're moving to Germany here. Here's a profile on Germany. So 20 pages long. It wasn't much more. But what happened is the corporations found out, and they wanted to get that information too. So they started to do it before I even was there. They started doing hard copies and building out these reports, and they'd send these big binders to the corporations. So fast forward 1998, here comes the companies building their intranets. And so I was hired to roll over the paper customers to internet. And Scott Craighead said to me, I don't know if you're going to have a job. I don't know if this internet thing's going to fly. You could be out of a job in 6 months. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever, I'll take that chance. And well, of course, we know what happened. We built up the company, and he decided to sell it pretty quickly. And he sold it to Monster, actually Monster's sister company, Monster Moving, so that people that were getting jobs at Monster could utilize this kind of self-help portal to move themselves to their new jobs.
Okay, I got to understand something. So when you say Monster, you mean like monster.com, like where you go get a job, like the job posting board? And they had a Monster Moving?
They had Monster Moving. I want to say it was in business maybe 5 years or so.
And was it a moving company, or was it like a DSP, or was it like
like a self-help site, so that people could go and, they could get boxes, they can rent trucks and all that. And so the other piece of it, so that's domestically though. And here, this little piece of Craighead is international. So they were going to buy a third party. And that's where I met John Heithouse, because he was the one negotiating this deal. And so the third party thing never happened. I don't know why. Maybe they got worried about international. And I was there when 9/11 happened. And so they decided at some point that we should kind of get rid of this international piece that we were sold to a venture capitalist. And then, as we talked about earlier, moving.com. And now it was with Move. And then the name changed to a Monster Moving name. Before it was Craighead Countries Online. And then Michael had a business partner at the time. And I said to the woman that I worked with, why don't you buy Living Abroad, which Michael and our previous business partner, Ed, were running for about 5 years. And she said, oh, okay, let me see that. I said that we get all the business, we'd have all the clients, all the customers. So she decided that we weren't a good fit for them either. So she went to Michael and said, would you like to buy this Craighead piece of it? And so that's how the three of us became partners in 2008.
Wow, that is so fascinating. I love these stories. I love it because I feel like when you hear these stories, like just going back to like what you said, like it was 1998, and it was like, I don't know if this internet thing's gonna work out or not, but if it does, man, it's gonna change everything. Because isn't that like kind of what we're going through right now? We're like, is everything about to change?
Yes, that's one of the things that I have realized now, because I was there at the beginning of the .com, and then to see it, the .com bust, 9/11 happened, 2008, the financial crisis, and now the pandemic. And, when you own your own company, it's really nerve-wracking during this time. But what I can see now are patterns that I just think as Americans are very resourceful. And I see that we always come back bigger and better, what I noticed. And I see that happening now in our industry.
I want to ask you about that, right? Let's stay here for a second, because I'm so attracted to optimism right now, because there's a lot of people that are very concerned, right? Because there's the unknown, but I'm really attracted to optimism. I always want to double click on that. And I want to hear your comments. If you're watching this right now out there in the audience, I want to hear your questions and your comments. So please just take a moment, throw it in the comments there, and let's hear what you think about it. People are saying, love that. This is great. Elizabeth's checking in here. Heather Jameson is checking in as well. I want to hear, if you're watching this right now, what are you optimistic about? We're obviously going through a lot of change, but what are you optimistic about? And Cathy, I'd like to ask you, what patterns have you seen over the last 20 plus years that make you optimistic right now?
So all of these things cause everybody's business, well, most everybody's business. I see we have a few more billionaires after COVID, but most everybody's business is especially in our industry, well, let's focus on our industry, to go down. And when you have that dip, you're going to have to do a few things. You're going to have to figure out how you're going to get out of that dip and what things you can do to help yourself go back, to that growth model. And what I noticed is when you get to that, when the curve dips and you start to just start heading up, which I feel that's where this industry is right now. I call it the sweet spot because I see a lot of things happening. I'll say it is happening slowly, but things are happening. And I see that people have been thinking about how they can improve on what they do and what they can change and what they do to just make this global mobility industry really a better place.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting because you were in a business that literally sold. I mean, I hate to oversimplify it, but literally sold brochures about cities.
Yes.
Right, and I can't think of a business that could have been impacted more, by the internet, right? Faster and more. Frankly, I mean, probably just devastated that business. But then there was pivot points that came out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So how is and I want to use your business now. So tell us a little bit about living abroad, and then I want to talk about how you see pivot opportunities in the market.
Sure. So living abroad has what we do is we curate, create, and update destination information on over 235 destinations. And it's information and tools for those that are moving abroad, expatriates moving abroad with a company, or business travelers. But we also support the families. The families have access to this information. And also we're seeing a lot of inquiries for virtual teams because we're all kind of virtual right now. So if you have a team in the United States and this was a kind of a real life scenario and a team in Denmark and some things are not getting done, kind of have to take it back to what are the cultural differences and what can you learn from each other and how can you work together to accomplish the same goals. So that is one of the things we're seeing right now that has made an impact on us. But the other thing is a couple other things. Information, really good information, I think is a commodity nowadays. We saw what happened in the elections. And people were, I'd hear people say things and I'm like, where did they get that? Is that true?
What do you mean by good information? Because I mean, I feel like you could say, oh, we have access to more information than ever. There's no shortage of information. The world is flat. We hear all these things, right? Not the world is flat like the conspiracy theory, but like the world is flat. Like information is at our fingertips is what I meant. Because I got to be careful real quick. But what do you mean by lack of good information? It almost seems counterintuitive. If we have access to so much information, why is good information so hard to find?
Yeah. And that's probably not the best word. I would say trusted and vetted information. And that's what we bring to the table. When somebody goes abroad, unless they've moved abroad before, they have no idea what they need to know. And that's what living abroad supplies. We give, soup to nuts orientation all the way down to how do you conduct yourself in a business meeting? What are the social customs? How you get around? Where are you going to live? Where are the kids going to go to school? And sure, you can go on the internet and you can try to collect all this information. Even if you just type in going to Paris for business, and you'll get about 9,000, results. And you find one that seems to kind of be good, and you scroll down, it's copyrighted 2014. So our information is continuously updated and checked by our team of content managers.
That's so cool. I'm getting some feedback. I don't know what. It's weird. I'm gonna mute Cathy just for a moment there. I'm gonna take you off mute now and see if I can still hear myself. Hopefully, I'm still hearing myself a little bit. I'm just gonna mute you for a moment, Cathy. Hopefully, it resolves itself. But no, I think what you're saying, Cathy, is so cool and so interesting because I think you're right. I think what we're moving. So there was a rush to the information age, right? How much information can we get, and how fast can we get it, and how many links, and how can the web interconnect? And now I think we're getting to the curation age where we're using human intelligence and sometimes artificial intelligence, but to actually say, okay, is this information good? Is it not good? Our machines are asking us to vote on information, thumbs up, thumbs down it, right? So it can learn what we think is valuable. We're seeing wikis where we can now go in and edit the information and crowdsource the information, which I think is a very powerful thing. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on crowdsourcing as well of this kind of information. We've got a few people. I asked the question, what are you optimistic about? And we have people coming in here with some great comments. Cathy Heyne is one of the most optimistic people I know. She's amazing. Jack Jampel saying, agreed, Cathy, we'll be back bigger and stronger.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. We got Renee. Let's see, Renee, hello, Ben and Cathy Heyne. Great to be listening in from Cape Town. I am so optimistic on the new focus on sustainability and driving business a different direction and focus on value creation as opposed to shareholder profits. There's a lot there. Well, the fact that the focus on sustainability and then the shift from shareholder profits to value creation, I think those are two things that I'd love to unpack. Do you have any thoughts on what Renee said?
Well, what I'm hearing is there's a couple different things on sustainability. If she's referring to sustainability as far as, environmental issues, I see that that's kind of a big buzzword in Europe. It hasn't quite filtered down yet to the United States. But they're also talking sustainability on kind of the talent pipeline as well. So I'm not quite sure which one she's referring to there, but also the value creation has always been very important. And that's one of the things that we do focus on at Living Abroad. How can we constantly add value? And over the last year, we've added quite a few new additions to our service so that we can really support people when in their move.
Yeah, one of the cool things I think from a sustainability standpoint, when we did an Africa week here, and then we also did like a LATAM week. And Ben Suki is a big champion of this as well, and he talks about the donut theory, and talks about economic sustainability. And you mentioned a few new billionaires out there, right? And it's like, well, at what point, how much is too much, and things like that. Renee clarifies here. Thank you, Renee. Sustainability includes plant, people, and profit.
Yeah.
Or she says planet, people, and profit. Planet, people, and profit. Awesome. That's great. Farrell says optimistic about the overall uptick in moves. We're seeing it extremely in the last 2 months and optimistic about our ability to adapt to anything that is tossed at us.
Nice.
Are you seeing an uptick in initiations and volume from where you sit, Cathy?
So because we don't deal directly with the assignees, what we do see is an uptick in our usage for our third-party clients. And we're getting a lot of inquiries for companies that have platforms, because our information, if somebody comes to me today and say, I would like to have access to this report, how quickly can you get it to me? They can have it immediately. They can choose from 1 to our 235 destinations. It's all there, soup to nuts. They can get it, immediately. And so value that we bring to a platform, and we're also seeing apps as well, want to pull in our information because they need to focus on what their core business is. And we can provide this additional value add for their customers because this information, it's not easy to keep updated. And you did bring a good point up about crowdsourcing, because there are a lot of companies that feel that crowdsourcing is the way to go. We have thought about that, but we realize that our information is, people really depend on our information. And you can't always control what comes out of a crowdsourcing kind of end result. So for us, we have worked pretty much the same way. The company started in 1987. We've worked pretty much the same way. And what was validating, because we didn't know what was going to happen with all the borders closing, is that our business is growing. So far in 2021, our business is growing. So that was, to me, that's a clear sign that we should continue doing it the way we've been doing it, all these years.
That's really validating. That's really cool. I think it's interesting with crowdsourcing. It seems like with crowdsourcing, you need a statistically valid sample of the crowd, and then the average kind of tends to be true. The average of opinions tends to be true, but with only a few different data points, it could easily be skewed.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said about the trusted advisor kind of a model. How do you account for that from a DE&I standpoint, right? Because now, because I'm going to play devil's advocate just for a moment here. When you have a trusted advisor, right, who's determining or curating or gatekeeping information, it very much would seem to have their perspective imbued in it, right? If you ask me, where's a good place to go eat? Well, I like spicy food. I like ethnic food. I'm going to send you to the Vietnamese noodle shop around the corner. Right. That may not be your bag, So how do we make sure that we have an inclusive viewpoint when we're offering this kind of information?
Yeah, that's a good point. And to your point, crowdsourcing does have value. Like you said, if you go to Open Table, you want to see who ate at that restaurant and like, oh, this is a popular place, because I love food. And so I want to make sure I'm when I go out, I'm going to get a good meal. So it does have its place. However, the key for us here is that we write our information from a business perspective. So it's taking the bias out. So in that respect, you're getting the business view of that information.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've got some really cool. We've got some cool comments here coming in. Keep those optimism comments coming in. I think that's a great lens to view this whole conversation with. We've got a question here from Kelly Hartquist. How often are city guides updated?
That is a great question, Kelly. So the answer to that is every day, continuously. Our content management team, that is what they work on every single day.
Wow.
Yeah, cool. It's a lot. There's a lot of files there, and it's a lot. It really is, and we're very thankful to have our content management team. They are the heart of Living Abroad.
So let me ask you then. So if they're updated, let's say daily or constantly, are they like API'd so that you're getting you're getting the updates, or do you have to download it fresh, or what's the delivery model like for you at this point? I know at one point we were dealing with hard copies. Obviously we've gone light years ahead of that. So what is the delivery model like now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the updates are immediate. They work on a platform called Perforce, so it's immediate. But you brought in the API because that's how the platforms are pulling in our information. So our new clients have all been using API. So that's how I see us being the most useful, because they can put it in their framework. It can look and feel like their site. They can pull in what they want, and it's very straightforward. So that was a good question about the API.
Well, thank you very much. Every once in a while, I get a good one. Let's see here. Mary Lee Brad says, in mobility, we need real-time information since things change so fast. Mary Lee, great point. How have you seen your customer change? We talked about APIs and all that kind of stuff. And how have you seen the evolution of the customer in global mobility and relocation?
So when I started in this business, it was predominantly corporations and moving companies. So those were our main clients. And when I think about the third company that Craig Heyne got sold to, we talked about going out to third-party relocation companies, but we were a little nervous. We thought maybe it would jeopardize our client pool.
How so? What was the fear?
Yeah. So we were afraid that we would lose customers if the customer was working with that particular third party. And so we were trying to figure out, how that would go. Would it be worth it or not? So when we all merged into Living Abroad, and we brought in the Craighead information, Living Abroad had already started working with some of the third parties. And so that kind of became our new normal. We provided our information to a lot of the third parties. And then what slowly happened is this, this technology that has been growing with these platforms where companies can put all their information in one spot instead of using the spreadsheets to keep track of, their employees and all that. And that ended up, we started getting some interest from these platform companies. And our latest iteration now is into apps where people can get some information, some additional information through an app that, that has a focus on their main service, but could also use this information to bolster what they do.
So then are your clients RMCs, DSPs, some other acronym I haven't thought of? Who are your clients?
All of the above, but we're seeing some DSPs moving into the relocation space. So what we also...
What does that mean,
They're
Cathy?
starting to do, the full relocation that they weren't before. And so we're starting to offer them some smaller packages where they could still include us, not at our regular subscription fees, but something that would fit with them as they grow. And so again, they are probably very good at, the information on their location, but if they have to move somebody to another location, it's a lot of time and research that goes into these reports. And for companies that utilize us, that are not corporations or third parties, it takes a lot of time and it takes away from their focus on the business. So that's another way we add value.
That's really interesting. So do any corporate housing companies use your data and your information?
Not yet.
Yeah, I just think about it because, there's all these corporate housing platforms out there.
Yes.
And they're providing homes to people who have never been to that country or that city before. And it just seems like some of this information could be very pertinent. So
exactly.
Just curious.
Exactly. We have talked to them before. And also right before the pandemic, we had been attending, we have a separate service that's called the Global Business Travel Center. So we had been attending the Global Business Travel Association's conferences and starting to get traction there. So we do have a couple clients that utilize our information, and it's, I think, a little premature to contact them at the moment, but maybe once we get through the summer, and hopefully if, Europe opens up, there'll be an opportunity to support them as well.
This is really interesting. We've got some really great questions here. Some of these are hard questions. Okay, so I'm gonna throw some curveballs at you here. Okay, Renee Stegman says, "Are you able to update all of the COVID-19 travel requirements, or is that just an impossible task?"
Well, that's a great question.
She's giving you an out here. She says, "Is this impossible?" Go ahead.
So that's a great question, because there's two things we did that at the beginning of COVID, our team, content management team, put up resources, COVID resources. And it was like maybe a week after the lockdown. So every one of our clients and users could get access to that information. The other thing we have are real-time, which is very helpful, real-time information on immigration. It's a link to Fragment's updated site that I think they update at least once a week. So those are the two ways we stay on top of really time-sensitive information, by finding kind of a best-in-class company that can add to what we do. Because you're right, Renee, that would be really hard. That would be really hard.
Yeah, Nicola says, "Renee, there's software available in the market to help you handle this." Nicola, put it in the comments. I'd love to know what that is. I mean, because then we can API that and then keep all those data sources up to date. Let's see here. Mena says, I believe that our challenges nowadays are the credibility of the information we receive, especially in Africa.
Mm. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. We've got, you know what? We got some good optimism. We got some good optimism here. Comments. Marilee says, optimistic that all companies in mobility will be off Excel spreadsheets and using integrated technology tools to run programs and data. Marilee, that is wishful thinking, not optimistic thinking, Marilee. That is a bridge too far. No, but all kidding aside, I mean, this is where it seems like we have to go. And it seems like your company is getting there, Cathy, with your APIs and things like that. How far away are we from this, and what needs to happen to get to the point where we get rid of Excel spreadsheets? It was so funny because I see all of these RMCs sending out these technology partner of the year award goes to, and I'm like, if we were being honest with ourselves, the technology partner of the year award would go to Microsoft Outlook and Microsoft Excel every single year. Okay, so Bill Gates would win all the awards for the last decade and a half. But what do you think needs to happen in order for us to get off the Excel?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure exactly why people are still using Excel spreadsheets, because there are a lot of resources out there that they can use. I don't know if it's a cost issue or it could be a time issue. It's going to take a lot of time because obviously somebody has to enter that data into the platform. But there's an awful lot of companies that are doing that now. And so I'm really not quite sure where. I hear that people keep track of maybe the movement of their expats from where they go. For instance, you mentioned Schlumberger. So I've been talking to Schlumberger just recently, and she was part of my FEM panel that I did back in, I think it was beginning of March. But they keep track of some things on a spreadsheet. So I don't know if it's comfort level. I really haven't gotten to the bottom of it. What have you found?
Thanks for asking. I found that spreadsheets come up when people create their own processes. So typically spreadsheets are ground up initiatives. They're not usually, the CEO doesn't come out in a town hall and say, hey, everybody, today we're using a spreadsheet. Right. Usually it's a coordinator level person or somebody that needs to organize data, and they just need a quick and dirty, fix, right? And then that quick and dirty fix turns into a 4-tab behemoth with all these kinds of calls to other things. And maybe, if you're getting really crazy, somebody invents, some Visual Basic things. And now all of a sudden it's like a program within a spreadsheet, and it's got buttons and colors and it lights up and sings you songs at Christmas. So I think what's interesting is these things happen. And I think it's good that they happen, because it gives a creative outlet for solutions to real problems. Mm-hmm. Okay, because these people wouldn't create these if they didn't. And if they didn't do a spreadsheet, they'd have a folder, a stack of paper, a chalkboard. I mean, they'd have something, right? Because it's solving a problem. It's filling a gap. What management needs to do is periodically, every 6 months, every 12 months, walk around and say, what are you using your spreadsheets for? And can we fold this into the business management system that we use? Can we create some functionality here? Because I observe that so much investment is put on the front end of technology, the customer facing technology. Let's put all the bells and whistles out there and make that look fancy. But in the back end, it's the mechanical Turks. It's the human hamster wheel. It's everybody pushing paper, manila folder, Excel spreadsheets forever, different versions of spreadsheets on the shared folder. I mean, this is the truth. So I think spreadsheets are great because they're proof of concepts. Mm-hmm. They're prototypes, but we have to get beyond the prototype. That's my take.
Right. And maybe they can see patterns. I'm not quite sure, but I think you're right. It is a ground up problem.
What are y'all seeing out there from this spreadsheet problem? I'm really curious because it's so pervasive. We don't talk about it because it's been the problem forever. It's been the problem so long that we don't know it's a problem, right? Let's see. Renee says, I like crowdsourcing. I use Waze and Wiki, and both these are really valuable and live updates.
Yep.
Yeah, Renee, I do too. I do too. But I also know that I was told, Wikipedia is never a credible source, right? Like I remember even in school, like you can't cite Wikipedia because Lord knows what happens on it. Right? This is great. Nicholas says, with no goal of being corny and getting likes, I'm optimistic about life. Please don't like Nicholas' comment here. We are all very lucky. We took this for granted before the pandemic, many of us. Yeah, for sure, Nicola.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's true. What are you optimistic about, Ben?
I think I'm optimistic about, to Nicola's point about human beings.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we get really wrapped up in news and bad news sells, and so we kind of get in this echo chamber of bad news. But I'm looking at the quality of people, and I think that people are getting better all the time. And if we don't believe that, I think if we take a longitudinal look back over the last 500 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, et cetera, I think we can see that atrocities have gone down, the quality of life's gone down, mortality rates, the life expectation. I think all these things have gotten better. I heard Fareed Zakaria speak a couple of years ago at an in-person conference, and he says life today is better than it's ever been. Access to clean water, access to electricity, things like that. Now, this is pre-pandemic, but macro, I think it still holds true. And I think that also this this generation, we always talk about, the kids these days, right? But this generation is so empathetic. This generation is so in tune with social causes. And not only they're in tune, but they're actually effective, and they're actually causing positive change in the world. And I'm very optimistic about where we are going with this nowadays.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah. Let's see. We got people checking in here. Chris Benson says it's costly. Yeah, it sure is costly. Pa checking in. What's up, Pa? Enjoying the conversation. Love to hear what you're optimistic about, Pa. Chris, let us know. Elizabeth Solly, implementing new technology can be painful, which leads us to stay with the technology we have, even if it isn't great. Fantastic. Nicola says, see, look at that. We put the name of the technology in here. We're crowdsourcing. We're crowdsourcing information. You put the name of the COVID updates in here. This is great. All right, so we've got a couple of comments here I want to read, and I want your take on these too, Cathy. Chris Benson, I think the spreadsheet comes because there seems to be a lack of analytic systems with our vendors, where the vendor doesn't have all the data, so companies have to rely on data lakes and build out.
Yeah, data is super important. Super important. And it's very, it's kind of timely because we hired a Google Analytics specialist because our customers want to know how many people are using it, where are they going on their site, especially when it comes time for renewal. And I have to say we have very loyal clients, and so we're thankful for that. But we noticed that we couldn't get to the kind of drilling down to the nitty gritty of what articles were people, what were they looking at? What do they really need? Because the global mobility person is the one that subscribes. It's kind of a bit of, they subscribe, but then they give it to all the employees. The subscription is unlimited access for the whole company. So oftentimes they don't know if they have to promote it internally. We can't do that. So they don't know what the results are. So this new Google Analytics that we put in place, and we're just about ready to make it live, will really give them the information that they want. And, even in our business, we're starting to realize that we have to pay attention to our analytics weekly, whether it's, on a marketing piece or how many people are coming to our site during that week, how many new clients, all that kind of data is really important. Because if you don't know where you are at that moment, how are you going to know where you have to get to in the future?
No, that's great. That's really interesting. And then Renee actually has a comment on that. What are your thoughts on information in time? So not just content for content, but having it available to the assignee at the right time.
Yeah, that's something we are talking about in redesigning our site for usability, so that the user can go in and pull the pieces that they want and create their own report. They can do that now. They can go to a page that has every single article. They can check whatever article they want. They can save it as a PDF. They can print it out. So that is available right now. But we're also trying to let them kind of, not curate, but kind of collate the information they need just by, kind of dragging and dropping. So it's something we're looking into. But currently they can create their own reports right now.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, is that really on you, or is that on, like, say, their relocation management company or their DSP? Because I mean, you're the source of data and you keep it updated and you API it to the relo company. But what is the best case scenario? Like, what's the best use case, I should say? What's the best use case for that data? What is the cutting edge strategy that you've seen in delivering that to the assignee?
Right. So there's a couple ways. So with relocation companies, they have their relocation counselors. The relocation counselors do put together the package that is specific for that expat and their family. So then they pass it on to them, or maybe they take it apart and pull out what they want. But they do that now. The best use of our information, I'm saying, going into the future is the API piece, because they can pick and choose, really, and third parties can API it as well. So they can pick and choose what information they want them to see. And maybe they have a piece of it. And so maybe they only need a piece of what we have. So in this way, we can support them. And that's really what we're trying to do. How can we support them in the best way?
Yeah, I'm thinking about this now, right? And obviously it went from being kind of a pamphlet or whatever, and then PDF, and then I'm thinking, when I get a PDF or when I get a big chunk of information or whatever, if it looks like this, then I'm like, oh gosh, TLDR, right? Too long, didn't read. Like, I'm just like, whoa, too much, exactly. too much. I mean, you see my inbox and all the things I don't read, and so then I'm like, okay, but if that information gets chunked up for me, like say you API all the info to the RMC, and then that RMC has dates in their system.
Yeah.
And it's, the home goes on the market date, it's the mover date, it's the whatever date, series of dates, right? Immigration dates. And then they feed me that information in a series of like push notifications or text messages, and it's almost like, Germany tip number 5, or something, or today's 2 days to the move day, you should be thinking about this. Or, I hear that your flight is destined to, you're going to land in Dusseldorf in 3 days. You need to know this.
Yep.
And now it's getting pushed to me in a little short paragraph that's on my text messages that I kind of scroll through and say, honey, did you get that? And then, oh yeah, I just saw that. Did you know? I mean, I think that's interesting, because to Renee's point, I mean, we overload these assignees and transferees with information.
Exactly.
And it's all good, and they need to know all of it. But our brains just can't handle it.
Right. So when a company has access to our information, that link can be accessed at any time by the assignee and the accompanying family. And so to your point, you're going to be overloaded. What also comes with the site is a move planner. So you pick your date, you pick your country, and you get email reminders in your inbox based on, whether it's getting your visa and passport, which of course is at the top, for, making reservations for the hotel you're going to stay in when you land. So it could be about 75 tasks if you're moving with a family and with kids. So it's very detailed. The other thing that naturally is occurred in the way we have our site laid out is they're already chunks of information. So we have them divided by articles. So if you read an article, It's not that long. So to your point with the overwhelm with getting the packet, you could just click on, and that's what people do. They click, I go, oh, I'm interested in that. And they click in, and it's like a 1-minute read. So it's pretty easy to find what you're looking for. We also have different languages too, which is good, pretty cool.
Really? How many languages do you have, out of curiosity?
Yeah, so we added Google Translate, and so it's over 100, and which is often, it's going to be very useful to the family members that maybe don't speak English as well as the assignee. So I was just looking at Google Analytics the other day, and I saw that somebody had translated to Chinese, and the Google Analytics was in Chinese. I have no idea what they were looking at, but it was in Chinese. That was kind of cool.
That's awesome. Love to hear if you have any more questions for Cathy. I've got a couple for myself. I could probably take one more. So if you want to leave one in the comments, love to hear your thoughts as well. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button right now. Appreciate you all watching out there. Cathy, I know that you have an eye for marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I am also fascinated by marketing, fascinated by the psychology behind it. I think we share that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You talked about the way that our clients have changed. How is the way that we market our services to our clients? How have they changed?
Well, first of all, as you mentioned earlier, we get so much information, right? In our inbox, LinkedIn, Facebook, and it is a lot. Some days I don't even want to look at it because there's just so much to go through. But then I think you start to find kind of your people and who you like to follow and all that. And I think more so than ever, when we do blog posts, we really figure out how we're going to be relevant to the time, what's going on now, and how we can add some value, just a little, something to think about, whether it's, how do you move with your, one of the blog posts, one of our content managers wrote was about, how you can move with your, and bring part of yourself with you, like your cozy blanket or whatever, to make you feel at home. Or even we have a blog post coming out by our other content manager about what's going on in India and how we can help. So we try to stay on top of, things and what's relevant in the industry, but also what's going to pique somebody's interest. What is somebody going to say? Oh, that might be worth reading. And the subject line.
What is it that does that? What piques people's interest? I think that's such a huge question.
I think the subject line. I've read so much about subject lines, so I kind of have fun. Sometimes I run out of ideas, but sometimes I have fun thinking of subject lines that I might want to open and see what they're talking about. I can't be too outrageous, but.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. I actually started following someone named String Win is her name, and she is a LinkedIn top voice, and she actually sells like a coaching thing. And I actually subscribed to it. I paid real money, USD, for this. And she actually has a tool. She recommends a tool that will actually rate your subject line.
Really? Oh, I'd love to find out about that.
Yeah, $49 a month. No, but you can actually have your subject line rated. You can have your content rated. I mean, there's so much. So much out there right now.
There is.
So I would check that out. If you know what, actually, if you guys want to look that up, can someone throw that in the comments? If you can find the name of that tool that rates subject lines, bonus points for you. We've got one more question from Farrell. Does living abroad have the same information for domestic moves, major and secondary cities?
That is a great question, Farrell. Yes, we have reports on over 85 U.S. cities. So first and second tier.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It is a lot. And we just created some really fun videos too, because our one of our living abroad core values is fun. So we just created some country videos. I think by the time we're done, we'll be up to 30, which people have enjoyed.
I'm over here. I'm actually. Oh, you're using video now too, not just the information. I'm putting the name of that by the way, that LinkedIn image
Okay, perfect.
for everybody that was looking for it. But what are you doing with video now? Obviously, I love video.
Yeah, oh, I know. So we take some of our information about maybe the history, the country, and we put together a 3-minute video. I source the voiceovers from Upwork, and I look for people in that country. So if I'm doing the video on Germany, it's a German voiceover. France, same. I did Singapore recently. We're working on Japan, China. So it's been really fun, actually. It's been really fun, and we have a great videographer that's out on the West Coast that's has helped us put together these videos.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. You have to send me one. I'd love to see it.
I will.
We've got 5 minutes left, and that means it's time for a game. You want to play a game, Cathy?
Sure.
Like, what am I getting into?
All
right, Cathy, do you have a top 5 for us today?
Yes, I do.
Yes, she does. What's your top 5, Cathy?
Okay. Well, the reasons why I love our industry. So
nice. I think we're all in for that.
I know. And I've been in it a long time, so I must really love it.
I love it. Okay, top 5 reasons why I love our industry. Let's do it. Number 5.
Okay, watching international relocation evolve over the years. So as we talked about earlier, I mean, from paper product to, we started at that company, it was 84 destinations to over 230 destinations. And also how people are relocating, how the relocation companies have come to play an even bigger role. They weren't so big when I started out. It was mostly the corporations, and some dabbled in relocation, working with relocation companies. But now the push is a lot of companies are working with relocation companies. And then the move towards these platforms to help corporations, be a little more organized and keep track of where their employees are.
Nice. Number 4.
So our industry events. So I love those because what a great way to get to know people more personally. And, every Thursday night at, Worldwide ERC are the big parties and John Hidehouse Band where we get to dance. And I wish I could dance more. That's one of my favorite things to do. So I always enjoy that. And then just seeing people just being themselves and not having the work facade up. And it's just it's a very nice industry, and the hugs and, all the things that go with that.
Awesome.
Missing that.
Yeah, I miss that too. I mean, that's the whole reason I started this show. I love conferences so much, and I was like, how do we get together? How do we create community online? How do we share these kinds of conversations that we might have at ERC with people who are in other continents who maybe don't get to go to the conference, who, it's awesome. It's amazing. Number 3.
So the people and the connections I talked about. So a lot of people in this industry have become my personal friends. And I love that. And what was really nice during the pandemic was that reaching out to people, how are you doing? And maybe you didn't talk to somebody for a good 3 or 6 months, but then getting together, maybe it's a Zoom group that you got together, or maybe just reaching out one-on-one. And, I've had friends for a long, long time in this industry. And I don't know if that's the same in other industries. I don't know because I've been in this so long. But for me, I'm a people person, and that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, that's awesome. Me too. Number 2.
So I can't say enough about our loyal clients. Some clients, I would say some of the major oil companies have been our clients from the start, from when I had started at Craighead. And we're really thankful because, we really believe in what we do, and we're hoping we're supporting them to the best of our ability. And we so appreciate them renewing their subscriptions from year to year. So I have to do a shout out to my clients.
Yeah, clients are so important, right? And I mean, they literally put food on the table. So gotta love the clients.
Absolutely.
And number 1.
Number 1 is our team. We have the most incredible team. And I just have to do a shout out to Ellen Harris and Aaron Fitzgerald, our content management leads, who are the ones that keep this service running on a day-to-day basis. They put out all the fires, they do, all the updates, they come up with great ideas. And then of course, Michael, my business partner, and we work really well together. We do a lot of consensus decisions, and because I'm of the mind that more ideas bring bigger and better ideas. So we do a lot of decision making on all kinds of things together. So I have to thank my team for all their hard work.
That's awesome. That's great. This is wonderful, Cathy. I wanted to just thank you so much for today. We've got so many great comments coming in here. People have really enjoyed this conversation. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I've learned a lot. I always love hearing about kind of where the industry's come from and where it's going, and to hear business leaders like yourself who have such optimism about where it's going. It's really refreshing. I love it. Cathy, did you want to leave us maybe with a final thought, something to think about?
Well, I think when I started thinking about that, I think the companies that embrace technology going forward, those are the companies that are going to be really poised for growth going forward. And I think what I'm saying is that our clients are asking for speed of delivery and agility and things like that. And I think you can get that with technology. This business is moving so fast right now. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, new things come up every day, and we have to be ready for that. And I feel at Living Broad, we had that kind of incubation period during the lockdown to be able to think about how we want to offer more support to our clients. But I think, technology definitely is going to be the way to go in the future. Oh, and the hugs.
Yeah, people are really enjoying the conversation, and everybody loved it. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Embrace technology, embrace the future, stay optimistic. It is what you make it, right?
Absolutely.
So Cathy, this has been tremendous. Thank you so much, Cathy Heyne, President, Living Abroad. Thank you for being here today with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate the opportunity. Bye, everyone. Thank you.